Hello folks and welcome to Paddock Pass, your pre-race edition for the 2019 Russian Grand Prix. Welcome to Sochi Autodrom as the sun goes down at the end of Thursday, and it has been raining throughout today. In case you were wondering why I'm wearing a thick jacket, doing my level best to look like Liam Gallagher. When I was about to leave Singapore, everyone in the media centre, well, a large group of people in the media centre said, you know, Russia's pretty cold at the moment. Have you got your cold wintry jacket? And I said no, because I'd completely forgotten to pack for Sochi. I just packed for Singapore, so all I had was shorts and t-shirts. So yeah, bought all this in the airport, then found out when I got to Sochi it was actually quite temperate and quite a nice heat. The group who told me it was really cold were going to Moscow where it's snowing, so they got it right. Anyway, it is promising to rain all the way through the weekend, which could spice things up. Race might be dry, but we may get some rain going into qualifying. Anyway, we look back on Singapore just a few days ago. Great race, absolute thriller, lots to talk about in terms of how that all played out at the front and throughout the field. And we're going to start down here at Haas and Williams, because contact between Romain Grosjean and George Russell saw the end of Russell's race, and he was not best pleased about it. But social media this week, some nice photos of George and Romain on a private jet coming out here to Russia, sat next to each other. Was it cold and frosty, or have they kissed and made up?
Romain's a great guy off the track and we get along. Disagree with what happens on track, but that's life. We're both grown men and we can move on from that.
Did you talk about it?
We spoke actually on Sunday night. Afterwards we text each other to say sort of, you know, what happened on track stays on track, and you know, no hard feelings off it. But we sort of joked about it, and obviously Carlos and Sergio also joked about it on the plane. So yeah.
Did they sit you next to each other intentionally?
No, because that's sort of the Spanish-speaking group, and we were the English-speaking group. So that was the seating plan. But no, it was good fun.
Good. Let's look at this weekend. How's it going to be for you guys? I know we've asked that every race, it's looked like it's going to be a tough one. But I mean, Singapore didn't look bad right up until quali. It was looking actually really good. Yeah,
definitely. We definitely underperformed in qualifying, and obviously unfortunate in the race. So it was disappointing not to be able to show the true pace of the car. Here, not overly sure, to be honest. I think we won't be too bad. Probably better than we were in Spa and Monza, probably a bit worse than we were in Singapore and Hungary. But it looks like it's going to be a mixed weekend with the weather, so if it's wet, who knows?
Looking forward to it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's good fun around here. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of this circuit, but it's always fun to go driving.
Some fun on social media the last few days. You and George sat next to each other on a plane. How was the boarding? Did you give each other enough room to get on together?
It was fine. He went on the outside, I was on the inside, and he cut the line out the corner. No, we're all good. George is a great guy, and we talked about it, and we went to the stewards, and obviously we saw all the footages, and actually Mika Sala was the driver steward, so if I was George I would have done the same, if I was Romain I would have done the same. So it's a bit of a shame that it ended up that way, but we're all good, and we actually played a little bit with the social media. It was fun.
That was nice. Into this weekend, obviously you took the decision halfway through Singapore to change from new to the hybrid, old new spec. I believe it's going to be on both cars for this weekend. What does that tell you? What does that tell the team about the direction that the car's gone in?
Yeah, so I'm starting on Melbourne car, and Kevin is starting on latest one. And then I'm going to fit some parts from the new one on the old one, and maybe Kevin is going to do a bit the opposite. And then eventually we can find out which part is causing us trouble. So it's a bit of it's hard. There's not many laps around here because it's a long circuit, but we need to do those tests for the guys to understand exactly where the correlation went, what's not working as it should. And on Friday night we take the best car that we have managed to establish and put it together for both drivers, I believe.
Sounds very complex. Is it?
It is.
I mean, is it the?
Maybe it's my explanation. I got lost.
No. Because very often, it's not necessarily A that's causing B. It's A in combination with C that's causing B, and you have to mix and match everything until you know exactly what create. It's like cooking. You got all the ingredients, but if you don't put them together in the right way, it's not gonna taste good, I guess.
All the gears, but no idea.
It sounds like me. Yeah, exactly. Sorry about
me at golf. I don't have the gears actually. Sound safe.
How frustrating is it for you all, though, that we are here this far through the season and still having to go back and play around and trying to figure out, or is it actually just key not just for this year, but for next year to get that base understanding?
I think it's key that we get the understanding and we really understand what happened and what's not working as we think. Because if we can understand that, it's going to be a big win. I think that season is going to be tough to the end of the year, and I don't see any tracks where we could actually perform a lot. And if we do, great, we take the surprise happily. But at the minute, I think it's going to be a tough end of the season. So the best we can do is to get as much understanding and knowledge that we can.
But what if you don't? Does that mean next year's a write-off as well if you can't understand what's wrong with this car? Because next year's car is ostensibly based on this year's.
No, that's not good.
Good to hear from George then, and good to hear from Romain also, even if the last question, he probably didn't want to think about that. Of course, so many of the teams now already looking at their 2020 challenges, as they have been for some time. And for Haas, if they haven't got this one bolted down very, very soon, if they don't understand, well, they understand the issues, but they don't understand why it's happening, that will roll on into next year's car. It will be an evolution. It can't be a revolution, really, going into next season. There's just no point, because 2021, everything changes again. Will that be then a write-off once again for Haas going into next year? Let's come down to Toro Rosso, as that is the next garage along from Williams, and we're just going to shoot down in that direction today. We're going to talk to Pierre Gasly. Had a great run in Singapore last time out. At one point, he and Antonio Giovinazzi, first and second in the race. It was like the old days in GP2. Mega. Happy day for him. Back in the points, absolutely firing through. And finally in a car, after a couple of races, that he's feeling really comfortable in. Why is that? How has he attuned himself to the new car? And how is he feeling, returning to Toro Rosso, a team, of course, where he made his Grand Prix debut last year?
Yeah, I must say I'm really happy with the way it goes with Toro Rosso and with my engineers since I came back. So really, getting better every weekend, and I think now we have a better idea of what I need to really extract the maximum from the package. So it's been positive twice in the point in 3 races. So hopefully we can keep the momentum.
Is something changed in you between where you were in your head at Red Bull and where you are now at Toro Rosso?
I will not say like in my head nothing has changed, but feels like the car and the directions we are taking in terms of setup and everything suits my natural driving style a bit better. So I don't feel I need to add up so much with that car, and the team is really helping me in giving me what I need to perform at my best. So there are still things we can do better, and as I say, I've done only 3 weekends with the team, so we are still learning every time. But no, it's going in the good directions.
Obviously, you were with the team last year, and the way you drove, your input, I would imagine, would have had quite a lot to do with how this car turned out. Is that an element of it, that actually there's almost sort of part of your DNA in this car?
Well, probably a little bit, because of course last year all the feedback and all the directions you take during the season has an impact on the car the year after. So for sure I think it's been designed a bit more based on what we experienced last year, and which could explain why it suits also my driving a bit better. Could be one of the reasons.
Engine penalty this weekend, but are you looking forward to it?
Always looking forward to racing. So it's not gonna be ideal. We're probably gonna start at the back of the grid, but still we have a strong car on Sundays, and for sure we'll try everything we can to recover it.
So from Pierre Gasly to Alfa Romeo. We're not going to talk to Antonio Giovinazzi, who first and second in that race. Great for Giovinazzi, first leader of a race, as we said last time out, that isn't a driver of Mercedes, Red Bull or Ferrari since 2015. And some people picked that up and said, but what about Lance Stroll and what about Pierre Gasly? If they don't complete a full tour, and if they're not classified as having led a lap officially, then even if they have been P1 on track, if they don't do that full tour and cross the line in first place, it's not considered for the history books that they have led a lap. So that stat is true. Correct. True is debatable. Correct as per the statistics. It's a nerdy thing. Anyway, Alfa Romeo, we're going to talk to Kimi Räikkönen. Really chatty today, actually, Kimi. Wasn't the Singapore Grand Prix he wanted, wasn't the finish he wanted, obviously the ding with Danny Kvyat, but I think looking forward to this weekend, and probably the rest of the season too. Is this one you look forward to?
same as any other. So it's got a nice track. Hopefully the car works well here. So it's a nice place to come. So.
Cool. Singapore obviously ended quite disappointingly for you. How do you look at the weekend as a whole, though?
I think difficult as it was in Monza. I think the last 3 races been pretty shitty for us, but Spa, at least we had a pretty good speed. Monza, for sure, we hope to be a bit more stronger as the speed comes, and then I had difficulties to stay on track, so that didn't help. But also last race weekend probably we were hoping to be a bit faster as it comes, but it wasn't the easy weekend. Maybe it's the track layout more than anything else. It's quite bumpy and maybe it's not best for us, but I hope so. We are back, let's say, more normal story here.
Antonio's had 2 races in the points now. How do you see him developing through the season? Have you seen him kind of grow, settle into the team?
It's hard to say, really. I mean, the difference, I think he has all the time had a good speed, but sometimes it's hard to get to just happen in the right times. It's the same with me. I mean, sometimes it goes wrong and it goes wrong, and not much that you can do, because if it goes wrong in a most wrong possible time, it's the weekend is pretty much done, and or it makes it a lot more difficult. So that's how it goes. But let's hope we are a bit better off on the speed-wise here.
Yeah, and obviously you had that last weekend as well. Problems in the garage on the first day. How much have you got to just keep ironing out those little issues so that it doesn't cause the speed bump for the whole weekend?
Yeah, I think it doesn't help, especially places like Singapore. But unfortunately, that happened, and it took awful long time to get everything back running. And the cars are so depending on computers being alive, and when they go down, everything stops. So that's how it is in F1 these days, you know. But small issues here and there, but we try to fix everything, and hopefully have a bit more clean weekend, and we can go and hopefully get a good result.
And so to Racing Point, no points on the board for them. It's difficult to not double up on that word, sorry, not intentional. Lance Stroll hit the wall. Checo had to retire. Actually ended up being a very good thing for Perez, because the team announced during the week that actually them calling him over early for that oil issue saved the power unit, saved the engine. So he has that still in the pool and is good to go this weekend. So we're going to talk to Checo about that, about the upgrades on the car, what you can hope for from that. There's Lance. Hello, chap. I think there's sort of a lot of optimism for, actually having spoken to Lance earlier today, about that package, about what it's brought to the car, about what they hope it will deliver for the rest of the season as they hope to end 2019 on a high. Singapore has not been kind to you guys. Quite a lot, actually. How much are you looking forward to putting that one behind you, but also how much did you learn that weekend about your new upgrade package and hopes for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think a lot. I think we managed to learn a lot. We managed to understand the issues that we had with the new package. I think it's going to be very different for this weekend. So yeah, definitely looking forward to run tomorrow and keep learning about the new package. As I say, it's going to be a very different challenge here. So we should be able to be strong. I'm optimistic for this weekend.
And it seems the team called you over in just the nick of time. You've been able to save the power unit, right?
Yeah, luckily we managed to save it. So that's all of the bad news that we had in Singapore, a bit of a good one.
Excellent. And is this one that the team's hopeful for? What's the realistic expectation here?
Well, points with both cars, it's a main target for us.
Singapore Grand Prix, it's a real sort of story, tale of two halves for McLaren. They had hoped for so much, given that their competitiveness against Renault looked very promising, given that Daniel Ricciardo was sent to the back of the grid. But then contact with Hülkenberg with Sainz on the first lap, and Sainz having to spend like a whole minute in the pits with the issue to his car. They couldn't get the jack under the rear of the car, couldn't get him up. So this is what cost them a huge amount of time. But he had a good race in the end and fought really properly hard after that first safety car when he realised there was a chance of something happening. But it was a good run from Lando Norris, finished about as high as he thought the team could have done. And he was really positive and really good today. We are, however, going to talk to Carlos Sainz because, again, in the press this week, some stories doing the rounds that and we're looking towards the 2020 cars, McLaren are thinking of changing the core concept of what their car is into next year. And we said the majority of the teams, particularly the midfield teams, would be looking at evolution rather than revolution, because it's a budgetary thing, it's a time thing. And when you've got 2021 coming with the new regulations, do you really want to take that, either that gamble or that big financial sort of hit of changing something so hugely? So talking to Carlos about that, and also, as it turned out, how much he's enjoying working with James Key again, who of course he worked with for some time actually when they were together at Toro Rosso. I read in the press this week that the team is thinking about changing the concept of the car for 2020. Is it, and does it need to?
Well, when you have to unlock 1.5 seconds of performance, which is what we currently miss to the top teams, I guess there's some conceptual changes that you need to go through. I don't think you're going to see a radical approach by the team there, because I think we have a very solid baseline to work on next year's car. But at the same time, we need to take a bit of risks and try and unlock where that second of downforce is, because at the moment, if you don't try, you will not find it.
James Key's obviously quite quietly working away in the background. How much are you enjoying his input? Is it quite regular? Do you have meetings with him over next year?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. I actually had a meeting with him in Singapore, and we were chatting a lot about next year and about this year's car, and sharing a bit of opinions in all the cars that I've driven in Formula One, his cars, the Renault, this McLaren, sharing a bit, and I honestly enjoyed a lot with James. I think he's doing a good job, and obviously time will tell, but I think he's gonna do a good job in McLaren.
Is it nice hooking back up with him again? Because obviously you have a history together. He knows what you like in a car.
He knows, and I know him very well by now. Obviously we worked 3 years in Toro Rosso together. It's quite a lot of time, and I find him very easygoing, very straightforward. So up until now, it's working well again.
Must be quite exciting.
It is when you meet with all the old friends of all colleagues back in a new team. Like, it's for us a whole new experience in McLaren. Me being the experienced driver, trying to help the team as much as possible, being the new technical director, trying to help the team as much as possible, is actually a nice challenge that I am enjoying.
So interesting stuff from Carlos. And we move now to Renault, the team that McLaren are fighting over that fourth place in the championship with, and we are going to talk to this guy. Started off his print media session, apparently woofing and howling and barking, and told everybody that he was at one time in his former life an FBI dog. Welcome to the mad, insane world of Daniel Ricciardo. Well, for the first time in probably 3 months, he actually made some sense today, and therefore we can put it in Paddock Pass. So here he is. The result in Singapore was not, or didn't show how good the race actually was.
Very accurate. Actually, I think how the weekend was, obviously the quali was, I think, all I could have probably asked for with 8th there. McLaren, I think, had pace on us really all weekend. That was evident. So to at least split one of them was all right. And then, sound from the back. Obviously, I was fired up for the race, but I was also realistic. I didn't expect to come through the field, at the pace that we did. So, that was like, I don't know, it was encouraging. And then, obviously the puncher then kind of set us back, and we had a safety car the lap after, which kind of double damaged that. But anyway, I think we were definitely a quick enough car for the race. Didn't get the points to show, but I think at least the encouraging part was that we had pace and good intentions.
Only a quarter of the season left to go. It's gone so fast, hasn't it?
Goes really quick.
It does. But how much are you looking forward to these races? And with the car that you have underneath you now, knowing how much the team's looking towards next year, do you think it will be a car that will suit everywhere, or you're going to have some ups and downs?
I'm expecting more ups for sure. I think even on a weaker circuits for us, like Singapore, I don't think is our strength as a type of circuit. Hasn't been our strength this year, but to still be a top 10 car, I think, in quali and in the race, that's encouraging. So I think we can still, all going well, salvage points in every race. Salvage, that's probably not the most optimistic word. Yeah, it's all right. We just got to do it, get it together. But looking at races, what's ones to be excited for? I think Mexico will be pretty handy. Mexico, Austin, those back-to-back ones I think will be good. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to tacos, tequila, ribs, whiskey, moonshine, all of it.
That whole fortnight.
Yeah, that whole fortnight's a good one.
Magic.
You'll see a very happy Daniel across those few weeks.
And so to the big three, and we start with Red Bull Racing, who did not have the Singapore Grand Prix weekend that they had hoped. I asked Max Verstappen earlier today if, not the joy, but kind of the satisfaction of being able to pull a podium out from a weekend where, after qualifying, he'd been so disappointed and so upset, was a positive thing and could actually outweigh the disappointment. He was just like, kind of yes, actually it was great to get that. But Max is always, you say to him, you think you can fight for third in the Drivers' Championship? And he says, well, I don't care about anything from second downwards, I only care about first. And I think it's the same in the races as well. He only cares about winning, and Singapore was a race he felt they could have won. So Max is always going to be disappointed, but that's just the level that Max expects and wants to achieve, and that's why he is rated as highly as he is. Let's talk to Alex Albon though. Again, still finding his feet with the team, but getting there all the time, and those 2 hours in Singapore absolutely critical for his understanding of this car and of this team. Starting off this weekend with the pen. Never good, but I guess...
TV pen.
Well, TV pen. Nicely done. Got to look at the positives, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's a penalty, but it's not back of the grid one, so we can definitely fight from there. And we'll see. I think we'll still go for it. We'll see in qualifying. I don't actually know our plan. I need to speak with the engineers first. But it's a good place. I think actually having a penalty here isn't the end of the world. See, I think Max showed it last year, how we went through the field, so we'll see.
How much did 2 hours in Singapore help you with the understanding of this car and your comfort level with it?
Well, I can feel what it's like under turbulent air. That's pretty much how the first hour and a half felt like. But no, it was good. I mean, we're still driving, still learning. I definitely learned a lot. I'm not talking just purely in the race, but post-race weekend, kind of self-reflection and thinking like, okay, if I did the weekend again, I know what I would have wanted in the car a bit more, and I'll take that, of course, through to this weekend.
How much of that actually occurs after the race? That you do you find yourself sitting at home or on the plane and something just drops, something just clicks?
I wouldn't say it clicks, but you kind of come up with questions, kind of, I wonder what would happen, this and this, and that. That's kind of the time you have now with your engineers, is you meet up again and you think, okay, how kind of self-review the weekend, and okay, what do you think? Do you think this would have been better if we did this and that? And that's kind of how you build on it.
And so to Ferrari, when we last spoke to you after the Singapore Grand Prix, we said the top two teams had a big debrief to do with both of their drivers. In all honesty, Ferrari turned a 1-3, potentially even a 1-4, into a 1-2. It was strategically a very well played race. Charles today has said that he was not regretful, but perhaps sorry that he had expressed himself the way he did on the radio. It's an interesting one, calling the team out over the radio. Is it something that the drivers, we always know, are on heightened levels of stress in the car? Romain Grosjean always says that he's really upset that they play out so much of his radio because he's stressed and he's emotional, and it sounds like he's whinging, and he's not. He's just trying to get his points across. Same with Lewis. It sounds like he's complaining, but he's not. He's stressed, and he's trying to get his point across as best he can. Is Charles trying to play a message out to the rider world, or is he just expressing his disappointment to the team? That's a question that's being asked. Like Fernando used to do. Fernando used to say something on the radio knowing full well it would be broadcast. Dangerous path to tread. Anyway, Seb, I think just delighted to be back. Top step at the podium where he knows he belongs, and it'd been so long, more than a year for him since he'd stood on that top step at the podium, and I think maybe reaffirmed to him the love that the team has for him as well, the joy that they showed underneath the podium celebrating with him. So Singapore was important. Potentially, when we discussed it a little bit and was discussed on social media, was it the team potentially just clipping Charles's wings a little bit after qualifying in Monza, after those two big wins, not letting him get too big for his boots? Did they even need to switch those positions? Mattia Binotto said they had considered it, but they ended up not doing it. So much to debate, much to discuss down here at Ferrari, but can they make it? 4 wins out of 4. Since we've come back from the summer break, they have won every Grand Prix. They've taken every pole position. They are going for 4 for 4, and to make it a clean sweep for September.
Charles, there was a nice moment after qualifying where Lewis said to you, how many poles have you got now? 5? And including the last 3? And he was quite surprised. He hasn't had a pole for so long. Is there a reason why you seem to be dominating qualifying at the moment? Do you feel you have a pace advantage on Sebastian as well?
I don't know. I feel good in the car since 8 races. I can't remember exactly when was the race where I've changed a little bit my approach, but since I've changed it, it definitely went a lot better. And then now since few races, I've changed again a little bit my approach to try and have a setup that was a little bit better for the race too, and this seems to work. So for now, it's all good. I just try to look on my side of the garage to try and improve myself, and it seems to pay off. So I will just try to continue like this.
Just to clear up the whole Singapore thing, obviously it's an emotional sport. You're all charged up in there. Emotion is part of Ferrari. People can understand why you might have been annoyed. Do you think maybe you can still have those things, say those things to yourself in the cockpit, but just not press the radio button?
That's definitely the goal. But obviously, in the car, it's always very difficult. There's a lot of adrenaline. I wake up in the morning thinking about victory. I go to sleep thinking about victory. So sometimes it might be hard. But I just need to control myself more in these situations and just, how can I say it politely, and just shut up instead of speaking on the radio. So I'll learn from this, and I will try for it to not happen again.
I think it has, obviously, it's been a very good streak for us. It's been a very good result in Singapore in particular, because it's been on a track where lately we haven't been so good, if you'd pick Hungary. So that certainly was a surprise, a positive surprise for us. But I think it also helps us to understand our car even further with the stuff that we brought to the car, understanding direction of maybe what it needs to do more, to explore certain directions more. So there's a lot of positives other than the result going forwards. I think overall it is definitely heading in the right direction, but it would be wrong to think now that we've won on 2 different types of tracks. We can win everywhere. I think it's still Mercedes that has been in a position to win every race in a way this year. So they're the ones to beat. They're the benchmark, and that's where we want to be. And ideally, we want to be ahead of that and not just there. So still lots of work in front of us, but also shows that if things are going in the right way, it doesn't take much to click.
And we finished today down here at Mercedes. Now this is a track that really suits Valtteri Bottas. As we all know, he is phenomenal here. Heartache of last year though, being asked to move out of the way to let Lewis Hamilton come through for the win. Does it still sit? Does it still rest in him? And where's his head after Singapore, being asked to slow down, not getting the strategy that he wanted? Has he had the discussions with the team? Is he any clearer about the team giving him an opportunity to fight his own race, to maximise his own potential? Or does he still feel now what he felt in the immediate aftermath of the race, which was that it was unfair and that he wasn't afforded that opportunity to race his own race because of what exists as a team agreement, a team rule, if you like, about the way in which strategy is played out for 2 drivers dependent on track position. It's a really interesting time for Valtteri coming back here to this place of heartache, and for him not just figuring out in his own head where he sits in the team, but I think, as you'll hear from him as well, there really seems like he wants to try and elicit some change within it, of the practices and what he believes should be the way that these guys, even as world champions, adapt, amend, improve the way in which they go racing. We always say it, but you go incredibly well here. What is it about this place that just seems to do something to you?
Only if I knew. You just don't know. Some tracks here are a bit better, but only kind of thing that makes sense. Since the very first year we came here, I found a good rhythm, good flow immediately, and just since then, year by year, been able to build on that. Obviously, every year you always start from zero. Cars are different, setup is different, tarmac always changes, so you need to find those tricks again. And the main thing for me to focus is finding all the things I could do better compared to last year. So that's going to be the aim.
There wasn't much you could have done better last year. It was a kick in the balls at the end. Does that sit in your mind when you come here, or do you just look at it fresh?
For sure I look at it fresh, but there's some things you never forget, and maybe it can be a good thing sometimes.
Now, last time we spoke in Singapore, you weren't a very happy chappy. Have you had a talk with the team? Have you discussed what went down and any possible options of maybe not doing your own thing, but doing things a little differently?
Yeah, I went to the factory on Tuesday, had good meetings about it all, and for sure lots of it is internal. But yeah, I mean, we've had a good chat about it, and yeah, there's maybe things we could have done differently as a team, but also we have some certain rules, and it's also a lot up to me not to be in that situation, not to be behind Lewis before the first pit stop. You know, obviously for us always the guy ahead gets the priority, so that's how it goes both ways. But I'm definitely going to try and make sure I'm not going to be in that situation again, and I'm sure the team also learned for the future if that kind of thing would repeat, maybe they will also think twice.
But that's the thing. You said there's rules, but you know, is there scope for discussion within the team of saying, well, these rules exist, but are they necessarily the right rules? Can we think about changing them in case that situation arises again?
Yeah, that's the thing, because every situation is always is an individual one, and for sure the team is always looking at their best, getting the best possible points as a team. But for sure they do also realize we are two drivers who are extremely hungry to win and to beat each other. So yeah, I think they know my point and they know how I felt after that. So we'll see what happens next time.
So that is your lot from Paddock Pass here in Russia, a track and a place I genuinely really enjoy. I've been coming here now for 5 years, and it is great fun. It gets more fun every single year. So yeah, really looking forward to the race. A little bit of rain could make things really interesting because the track is tricky and is slippery and is green, and you throw some rain down on that asphalt and it's gonna get pretty spicy. So fingers crossed we get a little bit of that. Can't wait to see how the weekend pans out. As we said, Ferrari going for an incredible 4 in a row. Do they hold the advantage? Is it theirs to lose? Are they the team to beat in this second half of the season? Can Mercedes swing back? Will Red Bull be in the mix in that brilliant championship midfield battle? Renault, Mercedes, will Alfa be in the mix? What about Racing Point and all their upgrades? Can't wait for the weekend to play out. From us now, from here in Sochi, that's your lot.